This is Kenny Clark, and this is Lombardi's Bar.
This is one of my favorite podcasts to do.
I'm just, blessed and thankful to be a part of this podcast. It's a great podcast, it's a great interview.
Maybe I know that you guys obviously being the best Packers podcast that's out there.
I had Malort this weekend, so I'm not tasting anything.
Oh, good.
He did.
God.
He did. That was fantastic.
Because they said, "Did you ever try Malort?" And I said, "No." And then they said, "Do you want to take a shot of Malort?" I said, "No," but I did.
Wait, who said
It's called peer pressure.
Yeah. I tried getting a high honors English class once, and they called my parents and were like, "Hey, just tell him he can't do it."
It shows.
It really shows. I hate you guys so much.
I'm going to throw these two guys into the screen so that if I die, they can carry on the legacy of crap that is this show.
Hello and welcome back, guys, to Lombardi's Bar. Your bartender is here, Jasmine, and we have a great show for you today to kind of like make up for the fact that if you watched Hard Knocks yesterday, this is the show that you should be watching. Do you know what I mean? So we're just going to bring the guys right in because we have a great guest today. So let's bring those boys in. We got Dan, we got Jimmy, we got Todd. I almost had it.
That was my bad. I jumped the gun.
The order was close.
It was close.
Once again, I was perfect.
Yeah, always, Todd. Always.
Honestly, never.
And then our guest, who is the owner of Pack-A-Day Podcast and the Podfather, Andy Herman, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, we're clapping.
No,
We're
we
doing one
don't
of those.
clap. I clap.
We're
What are you
doing one
talking
of
about? I clap. I'm a clapper. How are you, Andy?
You're muted, Andy.
You're muted.
Wow, rookie mistake. Let's start it all over. Start it all over.
And the broadcast.
You're doing great,
back
guys.
up.
Thanks so much for having me. Sorry for the mute snafu, but no, it's awesome to be talking to you guys. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you so much for being
Actually,
here.
I have a beef though, because Wes Hod has been on Pack-A-Day multiple times. He never said that Pack-A-Day was one of his favorite podcasts to go on. So yet on your intro, Wes Hod's on there being like, "Oh, this is one of my favorite." Telling you,
it took a lot of bribery money. Honestly, we had to keep raising the price, and he'd finally like, "Okay, I'll give you that soundbite."
That does make sense. You can bribe him with soda pretty easily too, if need be. So
I just did that a couple days ago.
Yeah,
after Big Dog was gone. Yeah,
I did see that.
It was all a plan.
We are calling
genuine.
on all listeners now to flood the Packers inbox with questions of why Wes will refuse to call the Pack-A-Day podcast his favorite podcast.
Just why Wes? Why? Just
Why Wes? Why?
Just over and over.
I love that. All right, Andy. Well, now that you are a full-time Packers beat writer, how was your first training camp? Let us know. Let the people know.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I am, as we talked about a little offline, I'm very disappointed in myself for not going to Cincinnati. I feel like I let everyone down. This is my mistake. But no, I definitely had fear of missing out today, as everyone was at Bengals practice and covering that. So definitely disappointed in that. But so far, everything's been beyond amazing. Obviously, this is one of the busiest times of year. So just being able to obviously go to practice, go to Matt LaFleur's press conference ahead of time, and then, come back and immediately do a quick hits podcast if needed. And then, obviously to be able to do the daily podcast as well. It's been incredible. And I've been super blessed and lucky to have my two previous jobs who were super flexible with me during training camp and going to practices and things like that. But a lot of times what would happen is I would go to training camp and then I'd have to go immediately back to work, and then I would work, and then I'd come home and do all the home stuff, and then, record a podcast at midnight, and then it would hit the next morning. And then by that time, everything's outdated anyway. So it's been awesome to, be able to cover it in real time and just kind of be there for everything. So could not ask for anything better, and just feel super blessed to be able to do it.
I do love your quick hits every day after practice. It is one of the things that definitely distracts me from work. Like right when I see that comes on, I just immediately just exit out of whatever I'm working on at work and just turn to my TV and put it on. So if I get fired, it's your fault, but I still appreciate getting that every day.
Worth it, absolutely. And yeah, no, it's always interesting because I have to figure out like, all right, what do I want to put in quick hit? Because I, of course, just want to go off immediately and just talk for like an hour on everything that happened. So I'm like, all right, let's limit this to like the 3 or 4 like big things that happened. And then of course I still end up going like 20 minutes because I can't shut up about it. But try to save some stuff for the next day's pod so I don't give everything out all at once. But there's always a little bit of a balancing act there.
For sure. Speaking of plays that you missed today, not to bum you out, but that deep shot to Romeo Dobbs was a beautiful pass from Love. But from what we've been hearing, and especially on your show, some of these times on these deep shots, he is not as accurate as you would hopefully see. He's definitely connected, like we've seen that with Christian Watson. Is this something like that we should be worried about with Love not really being consistent with the deep throws yet? Is it something that he struggles with, or just kind of early in training camp trying to get the chemistry down, like we even seen with like Aaron Rodgers and MVS at times when they were first starting together?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. And I don't know that we have a perfect answer for it yet, because it is just the 3rd week of training camp, and he's working with a lot of young, inexperienced wide receivers, and he's working with a lot of them in obviously as a primary QB1 for the first time, but also he's just working with Jaden Reed and some of these guys for the first time ever as well. So I think some of that rhythm and timing is just going to take time. At the same token, we are now in the 3rd week of training camp, and some of the same things that we saw on the 1st week and 2nd week of training camp are now some of the exact same things that we're seeing on week 3. So where you're willing to give it a little bit more accident forgiveness and look at the positives in week 1 as things kind of continue along in week 2, week 3. And if it continues through the remainder of camp and preseason, then you start asking, all right, are these things that, are going to be an issue for this upcoming season? And I think until we see it through the course of the year, and even really until like the end of the year, where you really want to see their rhythm and timing down a little bit more, I think those things are just going to have to be sort of a wait and see. But I think we've seen the inconsistencies, and I think that was always the expectation going into this season. And we're obviously insanely early into all of this, right? But when you have a first-time starting quarterback with 3 second-year wide receivers, 3 first-year wide receivers, and then 2 rookie tight ends, and a lot of just inexperience, inconsistency, and volatility with that entire group, I think this is what you're going to see. And somebody in a private chat today texted me, is like, if you want to know what happens at training camp every day, it's basically Jordan Love throws to X wide receiver deep, and X wide receiver is wide open deep, but Jordan Love misses it. And then the next one is X wide receiver gets wide open deep, and Jordan Love throws the absolute perfect ball to him, but X wide receiver drops it. And then the third one is Jordan Love hits X wide receiver, and it's the most gorgeous play you've ever seen, and Twitter explodes and blows up. I honestly don't know who it was. It was probably Jake Morley or Zach Jacobson or one of those guys, but I don't know whose number it was. We're in a chat together right now, but that's like exactly what it's sort of been, where you get like a play where the wide receiver gets open and Jordan just misses him, or Jordan throws a beyond perfect pass and the wide receiver just drops it. And then finally you hit gold and they actually both connect. And that is exactly what you would expect from a young, inexperienced offense that's playing together really primarily for the first time. So nothing to be, super concerned with over yet, because that should have been, again, our expectations going in. But again, if it happens week 1, 2, 3 of training camp, again, a little bit more accident forgiveness. If it's happening week 8, 9, 10 of the regular season, then it's becoming a little bit more of an issue.
Makes sense.
So, Andy, I think pretty much everyone could agree the most exciting part of training camp practice today had nothing to do with an actual play being completed, not completed, but Elton Jenkins mixing it up.
Just a guy.
Yeah. Does it kind of like give you like a good feeling to just kind of see Packer players kind of getting into other guys' faces, roughing it up a little bit, because of there's been kind of this view that's been perpetrated that the Packers are sort of soft. I think was it Dan Campbell last year said about punch in the mouth and they go down. Like, does this kind of speak to maybe like a culture shift or a change or anything?
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of coaches said it last year, right? I think it was Dan Campbell. I think Robert Saleh said something as well. We just keep leaning on these guys. We know they're going to fold something to that extent. And I actually just talked about it on today's podcast as well. I talked about 10 things I want to see in preseason, and number 3 is the physicality and how this team sort of responds to some of that. I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks on Move the Sticks. I think it was their Monday episode, and they were talking about how physical Philly's practice was, how physical that San Francisco's practice was, that there's these guys are getting after it. And same thing at Pittsburgh's practice, where you're getting one-on-ones with high level of intensity and team drills with tackling and bringing people to the ground and those sort of things. And I will, as I mentioned on the podcast for today, there's no perfect answer here, because I do expect when you do that in practice for the Steelers, the 49ers, the Eagles, and some of the other teams that do it, you're probably going to end up a little bit more nicked up and bruised going into the season. And that can have a little bit more wear and tear over the course of the year. At the same token, who were some of the most physical teams in football at the end of the last year? It was Philly, it was San Francisco, it was Pittsburgh. I know they didn't make the playoffs, but that's a Mike Tomlin team that's never had a losing record, right? So, I mean, those are good programs. And you look at Green Bay, and I'll preface this again by saying, I think they've had a very focused training camp. I've been impressed with the intensity overall. You can tell that, everyone's practicing. Like, you haven't seen any of these, oh, my arm's a little bit hurt, so I'm going to sit out for practice a day. Like, the attendance has been phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. So I'm very impressed overall with the practices, but you did, one of the questions I had was how are they going to be more physical this year? And can that be a line that they toe to keep everyone healthy, but still be physical? So to answer your question, I kind of was, and you never want to see big time fights or anything like that. But at the same token, if the other team's starting to give it to you, I don't mind Elton Jenkins, giving it back. And, maybe the second one where he ends up getting kicked out of practice, I think the second one probably a little bit more on Elton, but I like the intensity, I like the physicality, and I like the fight from this team, and I'm hoping to see it as we continue on through the course of this year.
Yeah, real quick, Katie brings this up. Anytime a player is responding to opposing fans, that's a loss, right?
It's usually not great. Yeah, nothing really good comes of that. If players are in any fans' DMs, if players are responding to opposing fans' tweets, it's usually not a good thing. And yeah, usually you're going to end up taking the L in some way, shape, or form for that more often than not. I agree with that.
Right. So for the first time in a long time, I think there's a new best player on the team with Jair Alexander. Who do you think is the second best player on this team right now? And will that change as guys start to get a little bit more healthy going towards week 1?
That's a really good question. I'll still lean Bakhtiari when he's healthy. And I know that that comes with the caveat that how often is he going to play? Because if I get, Kenny or Aaron Jones or, whomever else you want to put, Rashawn Gary, a healthy Rashawn Gary, and I get them for 17 games and I just get Bach for 10, then I might lean in another direction. But if you told me just today, we got to go out in the backyard and I got to pick my guys for the Packers and who I get to play with, Bakhtiari is probably number 2 on my list, just because he is so freaking talented. He's been dominating in practices. He doesn't even need to practice because he's that freaking good. I still think that guy is such a technician and such a just phenomenal athlete, and just everything he does is picture perfect, that it's hard not to pick that guy next. And again, there's a lot of other players that are certainly in the discussion and in the conversation. And I think that's going to be one of the really fun things of this season. I will say, I thought Rashawn Gary, as I went back and I watched last year's games, rewatched them, don't necessarily recommend anyone doing it. But as I rewatched last season's game, Rashawn Gary pre-injury just massively stood out to me all over again for just how the impact plays, how dominant he was on the edge, not just in the pass, but against the run as well. I'm hoping that he bounces back. And if he does, in where he was prior to the injury, and I know that's probably going to take a little bit of time, but he's absolutely right there in the discussion as well. But I'm with you. Jair's been phenomenal, and he's been a joy to watch in practice as well.
I'm sorry. The answer we were looking for was Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford.
I should have known.
Sorry. Speaking of kind of the offensive line, you mentioned Bakhtiari. There's been a little bit of a shakeup on the offensive line, or not a shakeup, but I think things are kind of happening. Zach Tom getting moved to center, taking reps away from Josh Myers, my guy. I want to ask this 2 parts. 1, how much pressure is there on Josh Myers coming into this season as the center? And 2, if they do start to move Tom as a center, do you see Josh Myers getting moved over to a guard role?
Yeah, I think the better question is, why is Josh Myers your guy?
Because he's from
Ohio.
my hometown.
Okay.
He's from my hometown. He's a Buckeye.
All right.
My dad is hobnobbing with the Myers family down in Miamisburg.
What?
Fair enough. First of all, I'll say this.
Hobnobbing.
I think I was higher on Josh Myers than almost any Packer fan coming out of college. No, still went to taking him over Creed Humphrey. But I did really like him coming out. And Dan, you were probably right there too. I thought he projected as a really good NFL starter. I thought he was always in the second to third round pick, late second, early third round pick conversation. And it just so happened, unfortunately, that there was actually a first round center still on the board and Green Bay passed him up. But I thought, had Creed Humphrey been gone, I don't think there really would have been much question that Green Bay took Josh Myers at that spot. And I was really hopeful for him coming out his rookie season. I thought he was solid, average, solid, replacement level, whatever you want to say. But there wasn't a huge drop off when he was in there. And anytime as a rookie, you hold your own on the offensive line, you're doing pretty good work. There's some ups and downs, but I was very hopeful that oh man, year two, he's going to come, he's going to clean up some of that stuff, probably get a little bit stronger. Year two is going to be awesome. And then year two is way worse than year one. And obviously that gives you some cause for concern. And then I was also hopeful that, all right, now year two's done. I'm sure he's going to learn some things from that in year three. And also I did wonder if, listen, having Aaron Rodgers right behind you, literally right under you, can be an intimidating presence. And I do think Aaron got after him from time to time. And one of the things I thought with Josh is I felt like he just needed to go and play football. It felt like almost he was thinking too much. And I was hopeful that maybe with Jordan being a little bit more laid back and not as demanding and those sort of things, I thought maybe that would help Josh as well. But I think Josh is having a really tough camp so far. TJ Slayton has eaten his lunch on numerous occasions. And I think this is very much a battle for who's going to start at center. I think one of the big things here is that with Bakhtiari not being active in team practices every day, one of the things that sort of causes the domino effect of is then Yash is at left tackle, which means Zach has to be at right tackle, which then means Josh is at center, and that's where they have to practice more often than not. And when Bakhtiari's in there, then we start seeing them rotate in Zach Tom a little bit at center, play Yash at right tackle, and get some of those looks. But if I had to guess today, I would assume my guess would be that Josh starts at center, Zach starts at right tackle. Obviously, Bakhtiari, Jenkins, and Runyon fill in the other spots. But I do think Josh is going to have a very short leash. And I think if anything starts to go wrong, assuming Bakhtiari is healthy, you'll see Zach Tom kick inside and Yash play at right tackle. As far as center or guard for Josh, I've also been a believer, and it kind of goes back to maybe just thinking too much that Josh obviously played guard in college, as you know, Dan, a little bit as well. And I do think that could be an option as well. They could potentially, if things don't work out and they're just not having Josh at center, they could potentially look at Elton at center if they wanted to. They could just put Zach there and say, you know what, Zach's center, and we'll figure out the rest. So there's certainly some options that they have and could move some pieces around. But as we sit here today, if I were betting, and I don't feel super, super confident in it, but I would guess Josh center week one, Zach right tackle, assuming Bakhtiari is good to go.
Well, I was hoping Josh would be benched just to rub it in Dan's face, but I mean, we can give him a chance.
There's probably decent odds that happens at some point. So you might have to play a little bit more of the long game.
Okay. I'll wait patiently. A question. I have a two-part question too, following Dan on this, about another player you've been talking about a lot this camp, Mr. Rasul Douglas.
Yeah.
Who said he's been having a great camp. We saw him fired up talking a bunch of shit to the offense, which I love, just that competition on the team. Do you think the strong camp right now, is it suiting him better that they are being more aggressive at the line of scrimmage, just him naturally being a more physical corner? And then the follow-up to that would be, when Stokes comes back, how do you think that secondary looks? Are we going to do that experiment like we did last year and put Rasul back in the slot, even though we have Nixon there? How do you see that secondary shaking out after Stokes returns?
Yeah. And your second part, I certainly hope not. I think one of the almost, odd benefits of Eric going down with the injury is that you got Rasul back at outside corner, and he played so fantastic there 2 years ago. Once he got back at outside corner, he played so much better last year than he did in the slot early in the season. And he's looked phenomenal there. And he just looks so much back at, like he's back at home. He looks confident. He is playing with a tremendous amount of swagger. I would not move that guy off of that. Now, what that means for Eric, I think he's probably the number 3 corner coming off the bench once he's back. And for a guy coming off the injury that he had, I don't think that that's the worst thing in the world. You can maybe work him into some dime looks. If you're in dime, it's a clear, obvious passing situation, which means you probably don't mind Jair being in the slot as much, and he's not going to have to take on a tight end or a fullback in the running game in the slot. So you can probably play Nixon and Jair in the slot with Stokes and Rasul on the outside. But to me, you got to keep Rasul on the outside. And yes, he's been having an absolutely phenomenal camp. In my opinion, Jair and Rasul, and I'm not saying they're the 2 best players, but I think they've had the 2 best camps so far. Rasul has contested absolutely everything. Now, the first part of your question as to, are they going to play more physical? Are they going to be, press man-to-man at the line of scrimmage? You're certainly, I think, going to see more of that than we saw a season ago. And we started to see that towards the end of last year, them being a little bit more aggressive in that capacity as well. But as you guys know, you can't just play one style of defense in the NFL. Every team has cover 3 beaters, cover 4 beaters, man beaters, press beaters, whatever you need. Like, you'll just get picked all day and bunch formationed all day if you're just going to play press man-to-man coverage, and you're going to be screwed. So they're going to have to switch things up. And I was maybe most excited about and most confident about, when Jair Alexander said, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but he said something to the extent of, I don't care what the call is from the defensive coordinator. I think, he was basically saying, like, last year, I think they got too caught up in what the call was. He's like, we are good enough as a defensive backfield that they can make any call that they want, and we're good enough to go out and execute it. And that's what I want to hear from Jair. And that's what I want to hear from the secondary is it doesn't matter if they're calling press man, press coverage, off coverage, man coverage, zone coverage, cover 2, 3, 4, 6, whatever they're calling, they've got to be able to go out and execute that, because you can't just play one style of defense in the modern NFL. So that's what's giving me a ton of confidence is they know it. And now they're going to listen to whatever the coaches are calling. And I do think what we're ultimately not going to see, hopefully fingers crossed, as much of is it's 3rd and 3, we're 15 yards off the line of scrimmage stuff that we saw a season ago. I think that's what's going to ultimately get cleaned up. But I think the rest is going to be, they have the confidence to go and execute whatever is called.
Do you think that was a player shift in mentality, or do you think part of that too is bringing in Greg Williams as that secondary coach?
I think all of it. I think Jair probably recognized it partially on his own. That's the type of confidence that he has, right? But I think that there needed to be a change. Probably it seemed like there was a disconnect between what Joe Barry and Jerry Gray wanted to do in the defensive backfield a season ago. If you got that disconnect and the players they have to almost take sides, and it just becomes maybe more than a bit of an issue, right?
Yeah.
So I just think going in a different direction with the defensive backs coach, and I think just getting everyone aligned and on the same page. And I don't know this for a fact, but my guess is there was probably some serious conversations between the defensive backs coach, the defensive coordinator, and the head coach, and getting everyone on the same page for what they need to do to be successful. And so far, so good. They've looked, fantastic in practice against Green Bay, and Green, obviously their own offense. And I think today, from all accounts, looked really good against. Now they didn't have Joe Burrow, so whatever grain of salt you want to take that with, but it sounds like they did fantastic against the Bengals offense as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, real quick, responding to Katie here. There's one person that does put Sewell in the slot. His name's Joe Barry, and he's still around. So unfortunately, don't get your hopes up on that one, that it's not going to happen. We've heard a lot of talk this camp about, who's going to fill that blocking role as a tight end with Big Dog out. And we've seen a number of guys, younger guys being brought in at that position. Has anyone stood out at the wide receiver position for kind of taking over for Lazard, doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the blocking on the outside that he did?
I haven't focused on it all that much, if I'm being honest. I do know that Malik Heath got the stamp of approval from Matt LaFleur when he got called a goon the other day, which is what they always called Alan Lazard. So that's probably a good sign for him. Christian Watson's always been a fantastic blocker on the outside. Dobbs struggled with it in college, but you could tell he knew how important it was a season ago, and he worked on that. I haven't really watched it enough to know. And once you get some of those runs outside, the whistle is blown so quickly that it's kind of tough to tell. I will say the guy wearing number 13 and taking over, Alan Lazard's jersey number on the first day of practice, they motioned Dontavian Wicks into, kind of that where they did it with Lazard and kind of played him off the line almost as an H-back. And he would go and he'd kind of, either pick somebody off on the linebacker or go upfield and take a safety or whatever. He gets down there. Rudy Ford comes up And obviously we know Rudy's a physical safety, and he went up there and he sealed Rudy on a picture perfect block and sprung a run for a big gain. That was, like I said, the first day of practice. If you're a young 5th round wide receiver and you want to get additional looks and get on the field a little bit more, that's the way to do it. I don't know that Dontavian Wicks projects as that goonish type, big physical Allen Lazard wide receiver, but that was an impressive play on day 1 of camp. And if he can continue to do that, like I said, he's going to end up on the field a lot more this season.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. So back to Love. What do you need to see on Friday from him? I know he's not going to play the whole time, but like,
Right.
what would you need to see? I don't know. That gives you like,
I mean, I think first of all, it depends a little bit on how much he plays, right? My guess is maybe like 2 series would be my guess. And I think the first thing is just, I think on the first day of practice, he had a little bit of jitters. You could tell he, airmailed a couple throws, and that's his first day QB1 at practice, training camp, etc. You could tell he was a little bit of jitters there. Family night, first part of family night, same thing. He missed 3 throws early and then settled down, and then at the end ended 5 for 5 and led that beautiful 2-minute drive, right? So now this is, not his first preseason game ever as the starter. He's had those before, but this is his first preseason game as the guy. And does he open with those jitters, or is he calm and confident to start the game? I have no question that he's going to be in command of the offense, know what the offense needs to do, get everyone aligned. He's going to nail all that stuff. His cadence will be fantastic. He's got all the little stuff down. Now it's just going out and executing. And I think the thing that I'm, buoyed by with Jordan is like all the extra stuff, which is really like, we I think take it for granted, but like the ability to get in and out of the huddle, make the play call, get to the line of scrimmage, know where everyone is supposed to be in aligned, use the hard count, check the play clock, get everyone in motion, like just all of that stuff that, again, we sort of take for granted, especially after 30 years of Rodgers and Favre. Like he's got all of that down to a science. His footwork is so much better. His arm is just mechanics are so much better than where they were coming out of college and what they were in his first season. His first season as a rookie, everything was a check down. He had no idea how to get through his progressions. He knows how to get through every single one of his progressions and knows where every one of his escape plans is, where his check downs are. Like he knows all of it. Now it's just going out and executing. And like sometimes like knowing the walk and actually walking the walk, it takes a moment to get there, right? But you can tell the amount of time, effort, energy, study, everything that he has put into this. And when you have that work ethic and that study habits and that drive with the talent and skill that he has, then it just becomes, when does it click? And I do think it's going to click at some time. And whether that is some random training camp practice, whether that's week 1 of preseason against the Bengals, I remember it vividly for Aaron when you could tell it clicked. Like it was just like, oh my God, this is happening again after Brett, like this is for real. This is legitimate. I don't know about you guys, but I remember the moment that I saw it happening. I was at the game live and he made a throw up the seam that I'm just like, yeah, okay, we've arrived. We're good. It clicked. And there's nothing to say that that's going to happen for Jordan ever. It may not, but everything else is there. And if he has that moment and it clicks, my goodness, look out, because he's put all the effort, time, and energy in with all that talent. And I just want to see him go out and execute. And once that happens, like I said, it's going to be lookout NFC North.
I love that.
Yeah. I thought there were, that when he got in against the Eagles last year, just it felt like the offense was running on time, which was different than what we had seen from him in the past.
Agreed.
And just having that rhythm kind of going and things happening on time is really what I've been kind of riding out, that it will be all right with Jordan taking snaps. So
agreed.
I love it. Well, guys, do you have anything else for Andy before we let him go?
I'm sure Jimmy's got a whole notebook.
I know.
Yeah. Jimmy's.
I do. You guys should be proud of me. I censor about 100 questions that popped into my brain. About 20% were just nonsense. So
after you just jumped the gun on the script to start, that's when I thought it was going to go off the rails right away with that one. Jimmy. Good job.
It's his life. I guess my only thing is thank you, Andy. I did botch it from the beginning. I asked the first question. I wasn't supposed to, but I got excited. Thank you. But yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Super busy.
Yes.
No food question? I need a food question before I get out of here. Dan's got to be good for a food question. Like, come on, guys, step your game up.
That seems a little pointed. Plus the fat guy, the food question. Oh, Andy.
You literally
Aren't we better than that?
You literally hosted a show where we drafted food items. For the record, I drafted pizzas with you for an hour. I will have you know, this is based on history, not on the win. For the record.
Andy, when we were first getting online, I did ask if you were in Cincinnati because we had a skyline. I was going to tee up the skyline question for you. So after that, I have no more food questions.
That's fair.
Have you had skyline in the past? Have you experienced that wonderful gift?
Never been to Cincinnati, never had the skyline chili. So it's definitely something that I would easily try. So that it's not one of my like food items that I'm disgusted by with my super picky diet, but love the noodles. We were talking about it offline. Huge noodle chili fan, but I'm intrigued by the cinnamon and like what's the chef that's like 10 out of 10 would try. I'll say I definitely would try some skyline chili if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, little chef reactions for us.
Yes, love that guy.
Yeah.
My brain went to Chef Boyardee, but I knew that's not who you're talking about.
Jimmy's very cultured.
I got Gordon Ramsay and I got Chef Boyardee. That's the only chefs I know.
What else do you need, really?
Honestly,
really the two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, you get ravioli and SpaghettiOs, you're set for a while.
I love that.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. Happy to do this anytime. Definitely mad at Wes Hodkiewicz, but we'll get through that. And yeah, you guys are the best.
Hey, Wes is coming on later. We'll address it with him.
You said like this show today?
No,
not today. In a couple weeks.
Maybe I don't. Yeah. Should we text him quick? See if he can come on.
Wes if he can come on. Yeah.
Now, then I'm staying. If Wes is coming on today, I'm staying. We're gonna have this conversation.
Hey Wes, you want to jump on your favorite Packers podcast?
Watch he responds with Pack-a-day. Just brings us down 10 notches.
Amazing. Oh, guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
I suppose I can do that. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-a-day Podcast, and of course, get the easy, like Wes Hodkiewicz's favorite podcast, the Pack-a-day Podcast, 365 days a year, wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Love that.
But what's your favorite podcast to do that involves all four of us?
Yeah, well, I want to do another pizza draft. Like there were a handful of those, Dan, that I was like, I think there was a Star Wars one that I really wanted to do. Like every single one, I'm like, and by the way, I easily won the pizza. I got New York style pizza. I dominated the pizza draft. So I think that's why I wasn't invited back, actually, is because I did too well in the draft. So you're like, all right, we can't have Andy back anymore.
What would your first ice cream one been if you drafted ice cream? What would you have picked?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not even all right. So I have a slight story for this. So in my last job, this might surprise some of you. I had a team of people, and then I had a group that I worked with that was in Minneapolis, and I was the oldest one of the group. I will say that, which is, again, I know it's going to be shocking for people, but we had a ranking, a list ranking of who the biggest boomer was in the group, and I wasn't always the biggest boomer, but when we asked what everyone's favorite ice cream was, I said mine was butter pecan, and I immediately moved to the top of the boomer ranking list. And I never got my boomer ranking undone from saying that butter pecan was my favorite ice cream. So I love me some butter pecan. I don't know that I would have drafted it first because I don't think it would have gone highly enough. But I do love me some butter pecan.
Dan's dumbass voted for vanilla.
Wasn't that like most versatile?
It's versatile.
Dan, stop it. But Dan had specifically said ahead of time that we weren't throwing stuff in it because I couldn't do like things from Dairy Queen with blizzards and like adding toppings into it. So Dan said no toppings are being added to it. So that means vanilla is just straight vanilla.
I'm saying,
Dan, I'm muting you. We've been having this argument for 3 years now. You lost it. You don't get a chance to rebuttal. Vanilla was
thousands dead over the conversation.
Thank you, KDS in the chat, by the way. There is nothing wrong with butter pecan. Let's throw that in the ether right there. There is nothing wrong with
Katie's
butter
also
pecan.
a boomer.
Damn right, Katie.
I'll say my 57-year-old father.
And she's from South Dakota. They don't know flavor. Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Pretty
They've
simple
never had
out there.
chocolate in their life.
Jesus.
Amazing.
On that note,
I'm making
Andy,
out
thank
here
you so
before I
much
derail
for
the rest of
joining
the
us.
show. Thank you for having me. Love you guys.
Appreciate it,
Talk
Bye,
to you another
Andy.
day. See you guys.
I do not like butter pecan. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna
I
say
have
what I
never
said.
had butter. I have never had butter pecan ice cream.
Yeah, now that he's off the show, let's just bash it. It's terrible.
Not him, just the ice cream.
Yeah, just the ice cream. Andy,
Just
great.
the ice
Butter
cream.
pecan, trash.
Ugh. Ugh.
He's
I love
He's
pecans.
not watching anymore. He is definitely texting Wes.
Yeah,
Pecan pie.
he's like,
That's
how
fine.
could you rate these idiots ahead of me?
Deceased.
No
All
one
right.
knows.
Let's get into Byron because my wig's a little bit tight right now. And I feel like I might get lightheaded and pass out on you guys. So
That's fine. Eli Berkowitz passed out like 5 times on our network, so we're fine.
just adding a little excitement to it. So Byron, Todd. Get into
I'm going
it.
two. One, I'm gonna go with all the homies at Max down in Covington.
Sorry, I just see on the thing the homies.
At first, it was just the homies.
Yeah, we added something on there. But they've got the Packers in town. I don't know if Tim's still in here. He was a little bit ago in the chat. So shout out to them. They
and Matt.
they love. He didn't go to practice today though.
Yeah, but he's part of the group.
Yeah, but he didn't. I'm shouting out people that went to practice, but also yes, because Matt does get. I think he's going to the game if I recall. So that'll be exciting for him and the rest of them. Look at this. Look at all these people that were there. Just to hang out with us because they love the Packers and anybody that has anything to do with it. So shout out to all the homies at Max. And also I added this on there while we were talking about the Elton Jenkins situation today. I'm gonna buy around for whoever the handler is that has to explain to Quay Walker why it's not as bad who Elton shoved compared to who he shoved. That there's certain people that you can and cannot push and what that difference is. So buy around for them as well.
You only push people in jerseys, Quay. Nobody else.
If they're wearing shoulder pads and a helmet,
Yeah.
you can go.
Push them once and you're good. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's avoid the non-shoulder padded
The
foot.
Quay Walker thing always reminds me of like there's some comedian I heard that was like, why are we always so upset when football players are like doing bad stuff off the field? It's like we pay them millions of dollars to be violent during the game, and then they do football off of the field, and we're like, oh no, I did football when I wasn't supposed to football. And I feel like that's what Quay Walker is. Quay Walker just doesn't know when to not do football.
Yeah. Dan also apologizes for Henry Ruggs. So too
Okay,
far.
Jimmy.
I take that back.
Fuck?
He was just doing football on the field.
Whoa.
Anyway,
Way too far. My turn. I'm going to
Jimmy.
go Elton Jenkins and Rasul Douglas. Sorry. I thought it was funnier in my head. Anyways, I picked those two because they, like we've said so many times, this team's soft. Like you said in the question to Andy, there's coaches who've called the team out, like punch them in the mouth, they'll back down. Just kind of lean on them, they'll give up. Elton Jenkins showing some fight. Rasul talking shit to his own team. I love it. I think we definitely need more of that for the team. It's great. Honestly, since Mike Daniels, we haven't had a crazy person. Quay Walker could be the crazy person if he directs it towards the right group. But it's been, I love seeing that. Like if we can transform this team into just a physical smash mouth football team under Jordan Love, I would love it. I like seeing concussions. So let's bring those up, I guess.
okay.
I want to see us be badasses.
Exactly.
I want us to be-
Concussions?
No, not concussions.
You don't want concussions. It's just,
No.
it's part of the game. It happens.
I want to be, for once, I want to be the team that's like, does the NFL have to rein in the Packers? Instead of it being like the Packers, like, oh, welcome into Lambeau Field, let me buy you a beer. How about we start throwing some things at people? I want things thrown at
There we
people.
go. Dildos, like the Bills.
Okay.
They do that.
Nothing
Bill
glass, nothing too hard, just enough to just kind of get under your skin and say, you probably should leave, or things could escalate. It's not a threat. It's just a warning. It's a concern.
So like not a folding white chair.
Honestly, that guy had great
I'm
form.
hoping that you all got that.
Yeah, he had great form.
You have to. If you don't, then you're racist. So
Dan's just laughing because we are.
Yeah, Dan's like, what
Dan
are you
doesn't
talking
know
about?
what's happening.
His whole like throw things at people, he was just talking about January 6th the whole time, not about football games.
He's like, let me get back out there.
It was just a warning. It wasn't an insurrection.
I am not saying this to be facetious or anything.
Well, this is going to go over well.
Yeah, he's being fascist.
I honestly think I have watched more footage of the Alabama riverboat fight than I have of actual Packers practice film coverage.
There's so many different angles.
There's so many angles.
So many.
You have to watch everyone. You're like, oh, this is 45 degrees different. Let me watch this one.
Maybe they're not going to get hit with the chair from a different angle.
Right, exactly. That's probably what happened. Dan, who do you want to buy around for?
I'm going to buy around again for Anders Carlson because after I bought him around last week to say, hey, keep your chin up, buddy. Focus up, nose to the grindstone, keep it real. Homie goes out and nails almost every single field goal at family night and just drills it. So Anders Carlson is the future of Packers kicking.
It was all
Is
because
it
you said
Anders or Anders?
Yes.
Cool.
God, if it was a different position than
until he is regularly making field goals in games, I don't think we need to worry about it.
True.
He should be happy we're talking about him in a positive light.
You still like kickers more than punters, right?
Yeah, I mean,
At least kickers score.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
All right, flip the switch. We're going to pay the tab. Jimmy, why don't you start with this one?
Yeah, get me out of the way, then I'll be quiet for a little bit. I'm going Luke Getsy. I was so upset when I saw that big dog sign with the Bears. It made sense going to a team that one has a pretty bad offensive line. You want to bring in a veteran blocker, someone that pretty much is having a 6 offensive lineman on the field. He's familiar with Luke Getsy being his tight end coach in Green Bay, joining Robert Tonyan, who he has a relationship with. Like it all makes sense, but it still fucking sucks. I wish Big Dog was back on the team. I blame Luke Getsy. I don't think I'll ever forgive him, which I know will make him very upset, but damn it. I wanted Big Dog on the team. I can't blame him for going to the Bears, especially since the Packers didn't want to sign him back. But I'm just so sick of seeing players go to NFC rivals or NFC North rivals, especially Big Dog, because he was such a fan favorite, but whatever. I love you, Big Dog, still. And Luke Getsy, I hate you so much. Pay the tab.
There are 28 other fucking teams. Sign somewhere else.
So many options.
For real.
See, and I think it has more to do with, like, I assumed if he wasn't coming back to the Packers, he was going to the Jets or he was retiring.
He didn't want to pay the taxes. He even came out. It was a money decision. He would have to pay too much in taxes for New Jersey.
Yeah, Illinois is traditionally a tax haven. We all know that, but
that's what he said. I'm saying what he said.
I'm not arguing with you. I just pointing that out. By him not coming back to Green Bay, I think what a lot of that says is that this team is essentially punting on the record this year. That, by not bringing in veterans at wide receiver, at tight end, by not having anybody in to, kind of push Anders. Like winning
Anders?
Yep, same guy. Winning's not everything that they're looking for this year. They want to see what they've got in this young group of people to see what they need to continue to go out and find in the future. And I think that Big Dog not coming back really kind of solidifies that they were like, hey man, go get paid. We don't have a job for you here.
Yeah. Pouring out for Wes Hockowitz. I know that bumped him out. Those two are like legit friends. So sorry, Wes.
All right, Todd, who do you want to pay the tab?
I'm going to go with everyone's favorite weird uncle, Mark Murphy.
Don't do that.
Great uncle.
Not televising family night. Just every part of that just seems so weird and out of place. And to do it because you didn't want to lose some sort of competitive edge while scouts are still going to be there and it's still open to the public. Like you don't have that. Stop it.
That was such a BS reason because it's not like they did that like they didn't stream it the last couple of years. I forgot who pointed out on Twitter, just saying like when they changed, it was like some TV deal or something, network deal. Like that's when they stopped streaming it. So like his whole like competitive advantage, we have a new quarterback, which is all bullshit. Just say it's a money thing and then people understand. Like we'll still say it's stupid, but not as dumb as we got competitive advantage not to stream it, as like you're getting like all 22 clips on Twitter somehow. Big B, I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but getting angles on shots that just should not be possible.
Yeah, he's going to prison.
Oh, for sure. He's not allowed in the White House in Green Bay for sure.
Well, that's because he's. Oh no, I was thinking of the Oval Office.
That's the Oval Office.
It's 'cause he's.
Same thing. Same.
I think he's got a few years to go before he's legally allowed in establishments like that.
Not that many. I think he's getting pretty close.
Nonetheless, a few.
Okay.
All right, Dan, who do you want to pay the tab?
Fucking Twitter, man.
So
God damn it.
Call it its real name. X.
X. It has been an absolute gauntlet between Bears fans, between certain Packer fans who will remain nameless here.
Jimmy.
Just fawning over the slob knob fest of Aaron Rodgers that was the first episode of Hard Knocks. Something called Adam Sheen as well thrown in there.
Yeah.
Whoever that fucking was today, talking about Jordan Love and not being good enough to beat out Aaron Rodgers, so he must not be good. I mean, just holy Christmas. The whole fucking thing is a shit show. And I'm going to spend 2 hours on it after we finish the show.
What do you think's a worse drug to get addicted to, meth or Twitter?
Math, at least everybody understands like that it's ruining your life and why and how.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't hide their meth addictions as well. And I don't feel like it affects as many people. But when you've got a Twitter addiction, like that can affect a lot of people depending on how dumb your takes are, the time you spend on it. And you don't come off to everybody as somebody with an addiction.
So it's more dangerous. You're saying.
So people might actually engage in a real conversation with you, not knowing that you are in fact a junkie. Mm-hmm. And then you just end up spewing that on them, or even worse, you get them hooked. As you're like, no, just download the app and jump on. It's fun. And then boom, they're hooked as well. Right in the vein.
What is the gateway drug to Twitter? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook?
No.
It's got to be Truth Social, Dan. Isn't that how you got? No, you went from Twitter to Truth.
Can Reddit be like a? I've never been on Reddit, so I don't know if it's which way.
I feel like Twitter is a jump off to Reddit.
To Reddit, like I was kidding.
Yeah.
I've never been on Reddit.
So are you
Reddit's
saying
like you're on crack and meth at the same time? Seriously.
Anyway.
So does that make Threads like an edible?
Are people still on there? That was such a cool 3 days, and then
it was super fun for a second.
Yeah. It was a moment, and I don't know. People are still on it, but
I feel like people are still at that point where they're like, I'm not going to be negative here, so let's not do that. And so there's just nothing is happening, because if you're not being negative on social media, then what the hell are you here for?
Very true. Very true.
Other than defining insurrectionist buddies, Dan. Wow, good eye roll.
Thanks.
All right.
Camp highlights.
I was doing it, Jimmy.
I know.
I like to do a dramatic pause and then go into it. All right.
My fault. We're learning.
We call that dead air.
You know what? Fine. Go ahead, Todd. Fire me. Okay.
No.
Anyway, camp highlights. Since Dan's the only one who's nice to me, you can go first.
Elton Jenkins. That's the highlight of the whole offseason so far for me. I know Andy was being very political about not liking fights, but I fucking love training camp fights. I love it more. I just told you I've watched 24 hours of Alabama Riverboat SmackDown coverage. So I want to see, like I said, I want to see our guys be fucking badasses. I want them I want people to be like, I hate fucking playing Green Bay because they're a bunch of assholes. And like, yeah, we are those assholes. I want to be them. I want to be the bad guys for once.
Dan wants Dan Campbell as our head coach so bad.
No,
I don't know. He's doing pretty good.
No,
I'm with you though. I think we definitely need it. Like I hate the idea of Green Bay being soft. Just getting some of these players to step up and show it. And like, obviously you don't make it to the NFL unless you have a little bit of crazy in you. Like you can't make a career of just smashing your body into another person if you don't have a little bit of like aggressiveness to you. So like letting them unleash a part of that to the other team and just out aggress them would be fantastic. Like, especially if we're going to like rely on the run game, you need to be aggressive. You need to be dominant. You can't do this bullshit. Like, I don't know, back down once they get physical. Like you have to outwork them. So seeing Elton Jenkins, he's done it before. Aaron Donald, he made him his son, pissed him off in a game. Now seeing him do it to another team right now. The only thing I wish is if we got that Aaron Donald picture where he literally took off one of the Bengals helmets and was holding it as a weapon, would have been fantastic. Like father, like son, and just have those two right next to each other.
Oh, jeez. All right, Jimmy, do you want to then tell us your camp highlight?
I think for me, it's just seeing that Romeo Doubs, Jordan Love connection still. We went into the season, and don't get me wrong, there was a huge part of Packers Twitter that was hyping up Romeo Doubs, saying he was going to make that big jump or make a jump this year. But just seeing that connection today against an opposing team right now, that 51-yard touchdown, whatever it was, is just great to see. Like they're building that connection. Last year, they got a lot of work together. This year, it's continuing. And if we can get that with Watson and Dobbs, like this offense, I don't know. We get so much shit. Now I saw something today that the Packers are going to go 5-12. If Love actually has a connection with Watson and Dobbs, that chemistry is built, I don't see how we only win 5 games. It's great to see the offense kind of clicking. Obviously there's going to be hiccups. Like I'm not an idiot. Todd comment. Yep.
Yeah.
Not that much of an idiot to think there won't be hiccups, but just seeing some of these things kind of come together that we were hoping for to give us some optimism for the season is fantastic. I'm excited. I can't wait to get this going. Let's just face the Bears already. It's been too long.
And last but not least, Todd.
I'm intrigued watching Simone Biles' husband run with the ones, him and Savage. So I kind of thought Rudy Ford would be the guy back there. So we'll see. I think that's going to be an interesting positional battle to watch.
You don't think Levitt's going to be back there?
No, he's a special teams guy. That's his ceiling.
I know.
Is Simone Biles the most famous Packer wife / girlfriend? Because I feel like I would put Simone Biles above Olivia Munn, Danica Patrick,
I don't know.
Woodley. I don't know who.
The witch that he dated for a little bit seemed pretty popular. I was all in on her for like that hot minute.
I mean, like in history, like is there a Packer wife or girlfriend that is more famous than Simone Biles that you would rank above Simone in any category? I think she's top.
I don't rank women like you do, so I don't know.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
I think so, Dan.
I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no. Simone Biles is definitely the most famous. Sorry, I definitely channeled my inner Todd on that one, and I felt bad about it.
Yeah, that was a Todd.
It was right there. It was right there.
That was the.
I talked to him on the phone today. I just started picking up his habits, I guess.
So now you are him.
No, don't put that on me.
I don't know. I feel like Todd's just one of a kind. You know, I don't think anyone could really replicate him.
I hope not, because that'd be fucking terrible.
Terrifying.
Two of me.
All right. Any last words, kids? How are you feeling?
No. Honestly, I'm excited for this. I just want this preseason game. Let's
watch
go
a
to a
fucking
bar,
game.
drink a little too much, yell at the TV, act like it means something. That's all I want right now. Give me 2 days from now.
Okay. All right. I'll snap my fingers and make it happen.
I appreciate it. That's why I said that to you. I knew you could do it. So
I've got it. This is like the witch type wig, so I'll work on it. Dan, where can the people find you?
at the Danny's gone. At DK all the way. You can follow me there. I got a lot of cool writing stuff popping off, so check me out. Thank you.
Amazing. Todd.
At the Todd V, I have very little happening there. Stop by. Check it out.
Good. Jimmy.
Jimmy_C08. All the game on stuff, Lombardi's Bar, Pack a Day, and I also will have. I'm dusting off the old keyboard and getting back into writing about the Packers. So I'll once I get my first article up for the website, I'll put it out there. But getting going with that again, which I'm super pumped about.
We're very proud of you.
Stop it.
And I'm at Jasmine Ashley 22, and then at Game on Wisconsin. Thank you guys for joining us, and go Pack Go. You guys are
Yeah,
really
it's perfect.
excited.
Right there's where you should end it.
Okay.
Pack
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And
Don't say.
let's try it
anything
again.
else.
You ready?
3, 2, 1, go.
And go Pack Go.